DD with another message. Magical Motivation Mondays. Magical Motivation Mondays. Message of today, right? Message of today is pawns on the chessboard. We're going to talk a little bit about chess, and I'm going to compare us humans, specifically myself, you know what I mean, and specifically you, to pawns on the chessboard, right? So a lot of people consider pawns to be the weakest piece on the chessboard, but me personally, I consider it to be one of the strongest pieces and one of the pieces I try to preserve the longest on the board when I lose all my other pieces, right? Because it's similar to life, right? Where you start as, you know what I mean, a weakling, you know what I mean? You don't know where you're headed, you don't know where you're going, right? But if you take the right steps, right? If you make the right choices, your life can go in ways you never imagined, right? So it's similar to the pawn, right? You might think it's the weakest piece, but if you get to the other, if you manage to save your pawns and allow them to, you know what I mean, go through the war and last, and then they get to the other side of the board, they can become any piece, any one of the powerful pieces. So they could become a queen, they could become a rook, they could become a knight, right? So you get to revamp as something new, right? And that's similar to life, right? Once you go through all the trials, once you go through all the tribulation, once you go through all the problems, once you go through all the situations, once you go through all the pain and anxiety, and you realize that you were great all along, right? And you change into the great person that you become, you realize that you were a pawn this whole time, right? All you were doing was going on your journey, making strategic moves, making sure that you last through this crazy world, so that when you ultimately got the chance to make your dream come true, it happened, right? And that's what I want you to understand. We living in a chess world. We living in a game, right? And the better you play this game, the better you will be. The longer you last in this game, the stronger you will be, right? And only the strong survive, right? But I want you to start seeing yourself as a pawn on the chessboard. I want you to learn chess if you haven't yet, because it's the game of life, right? It's not just a game to be played. It's literally a game of life. And you can learn a lot from this game. It's your boy DD. It's Magical Motivation Mondays, and I want you to know you're a pawn on the chessboard, right? But if you make strategic moves, if you beat every problem, right? If you don't let things break you, if you don't let situations put you in a position that you can't come back from, I guarantee once you make it to the other side, your life will be different than it ever was. You will be different than it ever was. Your finances will be different than it ever was. Your spirit will be different than it ever was. Your emotions will be different than it ever was. Your aura will be different than it ever was. You just have to allow yourself to make it to the other side. You know what I mean? Right now, we just pawns and we making strategic moves every day to get in a better position. That's all chess is. You want to preserve your strongest piece and you want to protect your king. So whatever your dream is, you want to protect that. That's your king. That's the most important thing to you. You want all the other pieces to protect your dream, to protect what you're chasing. And that's what's important. It's your boy DD. I want you to hit that like button. I want you to hit that subscribe button. I want you to understand you're a pawn. We're going to keep on going up like Jordan. You're a pawn, but the pawn is one of the most powerful pieces on the board, right? Because they need to be protected as much as the king, because you could lose your queen because you can use a pawn to become a queen. You could lose your knight because you can use your pawn to become a knight. You could lose your rook because you can use your pawn to become a rook. But you cannot lose your king. You can't lose your dream. You gotta protect that, right? You gotta do everything in your power to protect that. You gotta become that pawn, and you gotta move strategically on that board until you get where you desire to be, and you get that checkmate, and your king, your dream, and you are protected. And you finally get what you want out of this life. It's your boy DD. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe, then we're gonna go up like Jordan. Hey!